Well, thank you very much, Senator. Thank you, May, for having me on another Zoom call. I feel like I've done this before, but I think that shows the type of leadership that we have with Bob and May. They are engaged to keep our state going in the right direction, and so I certainly appreciate your leadership and your efforts. And thank you for having me on. Just briefly, when it comes to Proposition 16. It moved to the legislature as ACA 5, and I was on the Pensions and Employment Committee when it was going through. And at the time there was a lot of confusion in the middle of a pandemic and in the middle of a recession. We were really focused as a legislature on those particular issues, and something like this, it seemed kind of odd that it was coming forward without getting a lot of public attention, a lot of input. And I think they were trying to kind of move this very quickly and jam it through the legislature to get it on the ballot very, very quickly before I think the public could really understand what was really happening. But when it comes to Proposition 16, I mean, I am adamantly opposed to it. So many immigrants choose to come to America seeking opportunity in a country that doesn't discriminate based on race, sex, ethnicity, or national origin. My grandfather immigrated from China. My father came over from Hong Kong to pharmacy school and became a pharmacist in California, and eventually took a job working at a small pharmacy in Bakersfield. And years later, I was born and raised in Bakersfield. So Proposition 16 repeals this very protection from our state constitution. And the idea of non-discrimination and what it means is what makes America, a beacon of hope and a land of opportunity for everyone. That is why immigrants from all over the world come to the United States for that opportunity to create a better life for themselves and their families. And so we should be seeking solutions to lift everyone together, rather than pitting each other or different ethnicities against each other based on race by giving preferential treatment. And so as someone who is the first Asian American to represent Bakersfield and Kern County in the state legislature, something I didn't know until after I got elected, I know how important it is to ensure an environment and a society that is based on non-discrimination, that we're judged by our works and the merit and what we can do for our community, not based on the color of our skin. So again, I encourage everyone to oppose Proposition 16. Let's make sure that the fact that we have to protect a provision in the state constitution that prevents discrimination.
That is pretty crazy when you think about it. And, we were having this conversation, with somebody outside of the country. They didn't fully appreciate the freedoms that we have because they live in a country that doesn't have the same level of freedoms. And until you've really experienced it, it is frustrating when those are taken away. I've talked about how we had the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, and the labor force, after we had imported Chinese laborers for the gold mines to build the railroads, they approached 9% of the labor force. Now all of a sudden the unions are getting concerned. Well, they're going to just be propagating all over the place, taking more of our jobs. So they lobbied Congress and got that shut down. That was the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882. That wasn't reversed until 1943 in the middle of World War II. And now here we go again. We got a similar situation. Those Asians, darn it, they're just replicating too much and they're growing. And we've got 34% of them now in the UCs, and they're only 15% of the population. So I call this the Asian Education Exclusion Act of 2020 because they're overrepresented. I hate that term, but that's kind of
but when we look at the education system, especially our universities, we are extremely diverse in our universities, and that all occurred after Proposition 209 passed.
Exactly.
Now, if we want to discuss about educational opportunities and disparities in our K through 12 system, and the fact that we need to provide opportunities for communities of color to start small businesses, to have upward mobility. Of course, we all want to have that discussion, and we need to have that discussion as a community and as a state and as a country. But when we talk about, I see some leaders in education on the call, on the Zoom call, about choice and making sure that parents have the opportunity to have their children go to the schools that they need. They shouldn't be trapped in schools that are failing. They need to be able to. We should be empowering parents to send their kids to better schools and have access to opportunities. And those ideas are bipartisan. There's wide agreement to that. So let's focus on those solutions, not on something that